All right, what is poppin', party pundits? We are back with another episode. This is Pop Talk episode number 49. This is your man Professor Nim signing in with Boston Jared. Don't forget the S.
What up?
And my man, the Casual Rand.
What up, though?
Coach Dave is not able to join us tonight, but he will be coming back in the upcoming weeks. But we don't want to bore you too much with some of the details. We want to jump right into the content. And we know that everybody wants to know what's going on with Terrence Bud Crawford.
All the time.
He had his first fight in 13 months, I guess. Just
over a year.
Since he stopped Sean Porter.
Retired him.
Not only that, but this was a referendum on BOK Prime and their ability to put on a high-profile event. So we'll kind of dive into that. But will we say that I thought that Bud impressed? I wasn't sure how many people watched. So BOK Prime does. They just yesterday they had put out the full fight. I did not go and pay the money to watch the fight, and we can kind of talk about the people, how many people actually did watch the fight. I will say that the CHI arena in Omaha, Nebraska seemed like it was packed to the gills. His people definitely came out for him. But we'll start with the Casual Rand. So first, let's just talk about Bud's performance. Right. So after being out of the ring for a month, and I thought this was a very formative. This was not somebody who was coming in to get a paycheck. I think Avanesyan was somebody who had an avenue and path to victory, but it was shut off by Terrence Crawford. But give me your impressions on his performance.
The same. I mean, it didn't change. Going in, we all knew that Bud was going to knock this dude out. Bud, I think carried it for the 6 rounds. I don't think there was at any time that he was in danger or he was like woke up and he was like, oh, whoa, let me concentrate. I think Avanesyan was a perfect fighter. I now understand why Bud was looking at him for over a year to try to fight him. The dude is a high guard, straightforward fighter. And then everybody like on social media, Twitters or whatever was like, oh, he killed him. He rocked him. And it made it seem like he figured out a way to get him out of there. I'm like, dude, you know what I'm saying? Basic fighters know to get out of a fighter with a high guard coming forward is like a 6-3 combination gets you out every time. And if you watch the fight, Crawford started throwing that 6 like in 3rd round. He just kept throwing it and he was missing, but he kept attempting it. He knew the punch that was going to get him out, and it just took to the 6th round to get him. So
it did, but that was partly because of his corner. Like I don't know if you remember, but Bo had said something like, we need to start coming under. Right.
Yeah, I mean, but it was there the whole time. So if you a fighter coming with a high guard the whole fight, that's the only thing that he gave him was come forward with a high guard. He was there for the rib shots. He was there for the 6, and then you saw he followed it up straight with that 3, and he was out of there, man. It was there.
But to be fair though, but the 6 came as a counterpunch, which was you have to have impeccable timing. But
I think he was throwing that 6 for like 3 rounds. He knew that was the shot to get him out.
All right, so Boston Jared.
Let me just jump in real quick. There's one thing in regards to what Randy said. Let's debunk one thing. This guy was being looked at by Crawford and his team not because he was a vulnerable opponent, but because he was a viable opponent. The guy was on Top Rank for years and years and years. Did not have access to the same pool of welterweight fighters that other guys had, specifically the PBC guys. Avanesyan was always a credible guy. He had been ranked a top 5, top 6 guy in multiple sanctioned bodies for a while. And he was a guy who they could have made a fight with. It had nothing to do with his quality or they thought it was a cherry pick. It was a viable option. It had nothing to do with his quality.
So you say. So you say.
Well, I mean,
we can debate that. That's up for debate. That's subjective. But what are your thoughts on
what's subjective specifically?
As far as if he was
his available opponents, guys who were signed to Top Rank or who Top Rank had access to.
But Boots
during the time he was a top
signed
fighter.
Bud wasn't signed to nobody, so he could have chose anybody. And then
right, but you said that over the last he'd been looking at him for over a year, right?
He has.
Right, but he just got out the Top Rank contract a year ago.
But he was looking that one can't be exclusive of the other.
Right, but Randy. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Well, he's saying that they're not mutually exclusive, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying. So because he was okay, all right. I'm thinking over a year. Okay, all right, never mind.
So I mean, what's your impressions on? And then I'll kind of save my impressions on Terrence for the last. But I mean, what did you see? You know, we haven't seen him in the ring in over.
He definitely has a ring rust. He definitely had a ring rust. He didn't look as snappy to me. That was the first thing that I noticed. He didn't look as, I don't want to say he didn't look as sharp, but he didn't look as quick. He didn't look as twitchy. And then he kind of started to build his way up and work his way up. And then the speed started coming back, the punch, the timing, and all that. You know, as you get older, inactivity becomes your worst enemy. At least that's what you'll hear from a lot of older fighters, guys approaching their mid-30s, and you could definitely see that. But
I'm hoping I wasn't seeing that.
He built it up. He turned it on though.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I noticed about him is there are a bunch of ways we've seen Crawford approach fights. We've seen him on his toes, moving against a guy like Postal. We've seen him put his hands up in the high guard and come forward against good, solid punchers like Aegis Kavalauskas and a guy like Avanesyan, who I think is as good of a puncher as Kavalauskas. But in this fight, he kind of took that kind of half guard at times, and he rolled and parried a lot of the shots. And it looked like a guy who was preparing to implement a game plan later down the road. It looks like to me like he's preparing to fight that way against a guy, hopefully Errol Spence.
I was thinking about that. I was you know, I thought it was an uneven performance. I thought that the ending was, you know, spectacular, right? But a lot of times when you see that spectacular ending, then everything else before it you kind of forget about. But and I thought about, you know, was he preparing for a fight against somebody like an Errol Spence who does carry it in high guard and come forward? Even though Avanesyan is naturally a right-handed fighter, he will turn southpaw sometimes, and then sometimes it just square up.
Avanesyan will?
Yeah, Avanesyan.
Oh, that was the other thing. Speaking of stances, you know, Crawford interestingly came out in the orthodox stance, which he doesn't normally start off.
You know, I thought that he usually starts in the orthodox and then just kind of like gets his reads, and then he's more. He definitely seems more comfortable in the southpaw stance. But to me, he's right. I don't know. We think that he's a natural, like a right-handed fighter.
Southpaw. He does his best work in a southpaw position.
He does this, but do you think he's right-handed or left-handed? He's probably right-handed, right?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Like what hand he writes with, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, what he writes with just his dominant hand. But
I think he uses that to create distance. So if the other guy is a southpaw, he would come out in orthodox. And I've been saying for a while, if there ever is a Spence Crawford fight, I had always thought he would come out in orthodox to create that additional distance. But after getting caught clean by Avanesyan. And like the first 45, not first 45 seconds, but he got caught.
It was the first round. It was pretty close.
It was the first round. I thought. Yeah. And then he immediately switched stance. I'm gonna go look and see what stance Avanesyan is listed as on
so
on box rec, because I can't remember.
One thing I noticed is that I thought you hit it on the nail on the head when talking about Terrence Crawford and his punches not being that snap. Particularly, it was his jab, even from the orthodox and from the southpaw stance. I thought that it was a pawing jab, and I thought it was maybe on purpose, but I was really surprised by this kind of lackluster jab that he was putting out there.
He's never had the best jab, right? I
thought I've seen a stronger jab by him. It just, for some reason, maybe I'm just adding into this, but I think that and one thing is that, so he's known as a slick fighter, but you can touch Terrence Crawford. Like, we've seen that through the years. Yeah. And then for me, I could not help viewing this fight through the lens of, okay, what if that was Errol Spence on the other end? So to me, even though I want to give credit,
what if? What do you mean?
I thought that if Errol Spence is watching that fight, he is chomping at the bit. He is like looking outside, like, I could capitalize on this. I see him doing these things. I see some flaws that if it was a pressure fighter with like me, with my boxing acumen, my size and physicality, that there would be some things that I would be able to capitalize upon watching this fight.
Like what things specifically?
One is Avanesyan, when he would switch up to he caught him with a basically, it's like he had kind of like, he was in the middle of a switch, and then he caught him with a overhand left, and basically it was a counter off of a lazy jab that Terrence Crawford was throwing, and kind of, it was a very kind of a pawing jab that I saw out there.
Yeah, it was like a range finding jab, and he used it. He did use that a lot. So like that left hand over the top, what you're saying?
Exactly. And when he switched to the southpaw stance, I saw so Terrence Crawford does this thing so I think that he's actually better defensively in the in the orthodox stance, but he is just a more dynamic and lethal puncher from the southpaw stance. But when he's in a southpaw stance, he does this thing where he kind of defends by putting his left hand kind of
out of that half guard kind of
that half guard, and if you do that against Spence, that guy's going to take advantage of that. So I just saw that somebody who was a good, competent fighter, so Avanesyan had knocked out his last 6 opponents, and then Terrence Crawford had knocked out his last 9, and with this fight, his last 10. But at the same time, when Avanesyan is not anything close to a poor man's version of an Errol Spence, and I just think that I would, if I was Errol Spence, I would be on the phone right now with Terrence Crawford directly, trying to get this fight going.
Well, again, there you go. If those things, if Spence saw the stuff that you talked about, they think they can take advantage of it, that fight will get made quick, fast, and in a hurry. If they still think there's danger, then I don't think that we see that fight next year.
I think
ahead,
so. Like, I'm always on the other side of the coin. I mean, I don't even Terrence Crawford after the fight didn't say, but I mean, Spence's name. He was like, "Oh well,
why should he?
Because everybody know that's the fight to make." You know what I'm saying?
He spent the last 4 months doing interviews talking about
he
Spence.
came out with the t-shirts with the big fish. You know what I'm saying? Bud ain't say shit. So don't. You know what I'm saying? It's you saying that why should he call out Spence, but why isn't Bud calling out? You know what I'm saying? Why isn't Bud calling out Spence?
I mean, he spent the last.
Spence is literally like the day of the fight, he put out, you know what I'm saying? You can't be more disrespectful than to put out a t-shirt with your name, with Terrence Crawford's name on it, saying that I'm the big fish and I'm ready for you on your fight night.
He spent the last several weeks talking about Spence in all these interviews that he very rarely does. I mean, I don't understand what else you want him to say that he hasn't said already.
It's time to shoot. It's time to put up a show up. Most people after the fight be like, hey, what you want to do next?
And he said, you know what I want. He said, you know I want the Spence fight.
No, he didn't.
Yes, the fuck he did, Randy.
Pull it up.
He said, you know the fight I want.
That ain't what you just said. You know what I'm saying? That ain't what you just said.
But that's what he
said. So
intimated. Okay, all right. But I mean, we understand. There's only.
What fight you think he was talking about?
When he says that,
he talking shit about Charlo now. He's trying to go to Charlo.
No, so that's the fight you think he was talking about.
We know the fight that he wants. Come on, like casual. Let's be
totally words. Hey, we all adults, right? We all say things with our words, so you don't have to assume shit. And
we can since we're adults, we can use context and we can look over the last several months.
We got burned by that because we thought that fight was going to happen.
Dude, like, come on, you just arguing to argue. Like, what fight is he talking? What fight would you think he'd be talking about? Even if it were Charlo,
bro, if he wanted to fight, he would have said Spence. He didn't say Spence, so I say he don't want to fight.
Right, because he didn't call up Al Heyman several months ago, right? He didn't call up Al Heyman to try and get the fight. Directly. He wasn't in negotiation with this dude. That was all a ploy.
One, this is where we ain't gonna relitigate this, man.
Okay, we're not. No, but like,
we ain't gonna relitigate because you know what I'm saying. Because all honesty, if y'all want to keep going down this route, so the word, the reporting that's coming out, it was a $1 million guarantee for this Avanesyan fight.
What does that have to do with anything? What do you mean? What does that have to do with anything? Him wanting to fight, Spence.
I said a $1 million guarantee for the Avanesyan fight. So
$5 million up front.
That's I'm going by what the reports are saying. You going by what the words of Terrence Crawford said.
So I shouldn't take Terrence Crawford at his word.
I don't know.
I should take a third party.
I don't see $10 million coming out that fight, but he said he got $10 million.
It doesn't have to come out the fight, Randy. It doesn't have to come out of the fight. They paid him paid him money in advance. They paid him $5 up front, and they're going to pay him $5 after. You don't even know where the $10 million came from.
That's what I'm saying. All right. So, but did he say he got $10 million for the fight?
He said he got $10 million for the fight on Brian Custer's interview. Brian Custer asked him specifically $10 million. He said, yep. He said, I got $5 up front and I get $5 after. Adrian Broner, interestingly
showing
enough,
that the reporting, I don't, you know what I'm saying? I could take it as a grain of salt because I honestly believe that he got $10 million. But I don't think he got $10 million for this fight. Right, I think he got $10 million to be part of the BLK Prime family. So, and we'll see come the next fight.
Okay, so let me interject real quick, and then when I do that, I want to do a kind of a swift transition to kind of talk about BLK Prime just as a production, put on their first show, and then we can't leave out the glove controversy, which Everlast has weighed in, but we'll also talk about that. So this right here is from DraftKings, right? So we can say that they do not have a dog in this fight, right? So they are breaking down the purse for both fighters, and this came out on December the 10th. So it says that Terrence Crawford, this will be a one-fight deal with BLK Prime, according to Crawford's camp and Boxing News 24/7. It said he has also received half of his guaranteed $10 million, and it's projected that Crawford would also earn 70% of the pay-per-view views. That's for Avanesyan, per totalsports.com. Sportal, I should say. He will receive $300,000 and a projected 30% of the pay-per-view share from there. So
Crawford getting more than $10 million.
Yeah,
well, I don't know about that. It just depends on how many people.
I mean, come on, Cam. You can't quote it and then be like. So according to what you just said, he got 10 million and 75% of the pay.
No. I said no. They said that he was guaranteed but he received half of his guarantee. So that was 5 million, and that he's supposed to get 70%. So that, to me, that's kind of murky language in saying that we're going to give you half of that guarantee up front.
That's now y'all fudging y'all own shit right now, because
who's y'all?
I'm just reading it.
But the universe, because as Jared just said, Bud came out his mouth and said he getting 10 mil.
And that's what that report also just said.
But then you saying that he getting 75% of the pay-per-view, so he getting 10 mil and 75% of the pay-per-view?
70%. I mean, this is what DraftKings is reporting. I don't know if the rest of the guarantee.
But DraftKings ain't coming with their own original thoughts. So this you quoting a source that's quoting a source.
I mean, is he?
Yeah, but I mean, they're not necessarily biased, but they've got some investigative reporters for them. So
so you quoting a source that's quoting a source. Because he just said, like, Boxing Room or Boxing News 24 or whatever, where they found out they getting the 10 mil. That's a source giving the source.
Terrence Crawford has said out of his own mouth it's 10 million. That's the horse's mouth as far as I'm concerned.
Right. So the breakdown. So according to our logic, if he said he getting 10 million, and then the report saying he getting 75% after the 75% of pay-per-views, so he getting 10 million and 75% of pay-per-views, 70% of pay-per-views.
Apparently. That's not a bad night's work.
I never counted the dude money. I don't care. I understand that, you know what I'm saying? Like, if this opportunity came where they paying me $10 million to fight somebody I know I'm gonna scrub up, I'm gonna take that too. But I just saying that the whole thing was just negotiated in bad faith. That's just my opinion. You know, and nobody can tell me wrong. Y'all can argue y'all point, but y'all can't prove to me. Nobody can prove facts but the people that was there.
Yeah, I mean,
only two guys were there, and the other guy that was there never talked.
Who's the two guys?
It was Al Heyman and Terrence Crawford.
That's not true.
I guess, and a lawyer. So 3 guys. Well, Spence wasn't there.
Showtime. The contract came from Showtime, right?
I don't know.
The contract came from Showtime.
No, I don't know. Errol Spence is not a Showtime fighter. Let's be clear.
But Espinosa was the one who was going to pay to put on the fight. The money was.
I know that Errol Spence is not a Showtime fighter. He signed to PBC and Al Heyman.
I understand that.
So the answer to your question is probably no.
Yeah, but the money came from where? The money didn't come from PBC. The money was coming from the networks that was the network that was going to show the fight. Correct?
Potentially, right? Because he was getting 35% of pay-per-view revenue.
And there's a combination, right? It comes from advertisers and people and other kind of, I don't want to say angel investors, but there's a kind of a conglomerate of money that we can take from. But let's not speculate on that too long. Let's give some time. Let's talk about BLK Prime as a production. All right,
it was great. I couldn't believe it. I was
shocked.
Go ahead,
Boston.
I thought that shit was going to be, and that was me going off of DAZN's first couple of events. And DAZN, by all accounts, is operating with way more cash.
Absolutely.
Than BLK
that's
Prime.
what we think.
At least that's what I had assumed based on some of the stuff I know
our
about.
Assumption, exactly.
Based off of exactly. So, but yeah, man, production quality was top notch, man. The commentating was good, courtesy of Antonio Tarver and Paulie Malignaggi. And shout out to Blue Blood for finagling a YouTube podcaster career into a commentator role, whatever you want to call that role he had, man.
In Blue Blood, I think he actually is part of BLK Prime.
It sounds like it, based off of what.
So shout out for Blue Blood for maneuvering his way into BLK Prime, and then with his newfound power being in the production of the event. But
Okay, go ahead, Mr. PBC. What do you think about?
I didn't doubt like the commentator wasn't going to be on point. You had former top ranked PBC commentators on the program. So Showtime. Yeah, Showtime commentator. So yeah, I think it was good, but it was good until it wasn't.
With that said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap. I think this was a good way to kind of come back with most of the pundits. We don't have all of the pundits as soon as I unfreeze. But we want to thank you again for rocking with us tonight. Make sure that you do like and subscribe. We're trying to push it to those 3 digits. We are very, very close because, once we get to the 100, then we get into the 1,000 and then so on and so on. But make sure that you do like and subscribe and keep it popping with the pundits of pugilism. This is your man, Professor Nims. I'm signing out for your Boston Jared. Don't forget the S. And then your man, the casual one, Casual Rand.
Peace.
All right, we are out.